Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 544 of the Riverfront Rich. That's a lot of episodes, boys. I ain't gonna lie
Too
to you.
many.
A lot.
You've been on here for most of those. Joining me this week is a familiar face, host of the Welcome to the Jungle podcast on the Riverfront Network, Joe Farfsing. How are you, Joe?
I am excellent, man. How are you?
I could not be better. It's All-Star break, so no baseball going on today or yesterday. It's a little bit boring, but there's still stuff to talk about, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it with the Podfather himself, Mr. Bill Lack. Welcome back to the show, Bill.
Thank you. Been wanting to come back. Question: why don't they hold the futures game on one of the days before or after the All-Star game?
It makes no sense. It's ridiculous. The futures game and the draft, doing both. Having the draft start while there's still baseball games going on. You think about what the NBA and NFL do when they just completely monopolize a portion of the schedule when they're out of season. And MLB is just like, yeah, we'll just slap it in there at 7 p.m. Central.
I wouldn't think the NBA's ratings are nearly as high as the NFL's for the draft, but
no. Well, maybe day one.
My thought, I was thinking about this the other day. Move the game to Wednesday since everyone's off on Thursday anyway. Like since that's now that new thing, which I like, and then have Monday for the futures game and round one of the draft, or the first couple rounds, and then Tuesday be the home run derby and the rest of the draft. Every day has its own thing, so you're not having to watch the draft, the futures game, and actual regular season games at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, hire me, but Rob Manfred.
It'd be really nice if we had a commissioner that understood and liked baseball, or understood public relations. Either one.
I mean, the Reds are following the MLB model, it seems.
Yeah.
All right. As always, this podcast is brought to you from the Blue Wire Podcast Network. We appreciate those folks. And just a little rundown of what we're going to do today. Obviously, we always start with some vibes checks. We'll get into that in a minute. We'll talk a little All-Star baseball. And then we are going to stay in the All-Star mood, and we are going to talk draft. But we're going to draft the best All-Star seasons by Reds players. So stay tuned to check that out at the end. We'll do some viewer mail questions first. Joe's camera froze, and he looked hilarious there for a minute. So you're missing out if you are audio only. All right, guys, let's get into this. Joe, quick, going into the second half of the season here, how are you feeling about the state of this franchise?
The state of the franchise or the actual 26-man roster? I mean, they're kind of all in one, but
you take that however you want.
I mean, it's going along a lot like how I kind of figured it was going to. I mean, I hoped the record would be better, but before the season started, we expected to have McLean, you expected to have Marte the whole season, Friedel to play more than, how many has he played? A dozen games? Even that much?
I think 11.
He's barely played a handful of games. The pitchers have been in and out of the or on and off of the IL a lot. There's always such a taint and a cynical viewpoint just with the franchise been, but they're not out of it. I mean, you look at the schedule and you look at the standings where they are in the wild card, they still have a chance and they're getting guys back. So other teams will most likely make good acquisitions, and the Reds, what remains to be seen what they're going to do, but okay, it's okay.
TJ Friedel has played 26 games, which is so many more than I thought, which is also not very many. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I'm not actually that dismayed that this team is only 3 games below 500, considering that they've missed 4 of their 8 most important position players almost all season long. Friedel, Marte, CES, and Matt McLean. So it's been really, really bad at times. We had the Rally Reds last year. We've got the Roller Coaster Reds this year because they're either sweeping the Yankees or getting swept by the Tigers, and very little in between, it seems like. I am completely out on this team on Sunday, and then they've wrote me right back in by Thursday. Hopefully they can find some consistency down the stretch. But, Bill, you've seen a lot of baseball. How you feeling about these Reds?
Considering all the things they've overcome in the first half of the season. Like Joe said, I don't think you can expect them to be much better. But with their run differential, you would expect their record to be better than it is.
Yeah.
But they've been terrible in one-run ball games. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fundamental mistakes that this team seems to make again and again and again and again and again. And it makes you question whether there's any accountability from the coaching staff and the manager when players make mistakes. Barry Larkin actually said something on the air the other day that I agreed with. It was after Ellie had made a dumb play, trying to stretch a double into a triple and got thrown out by a country mile. And Larkin said, you want him to play loose, you want him to play hard, you want him to play aggressive. But when he makes a mistake like this, somebody needs to ask him after the game, what did you see that made you think you could get third base there? And tell him what he did wrong. He didn't look in the right place or whatever. And you question whether anybody – and I agree with that completely. I don't want Ellie to quit being aggressive. And I don't want this team to lose their aggressiveness. But when they make mistakes, they need to be pointed out and explained to them why it was a mistake. And you hope they learn from it.
Yeah, this is actually a really good point that I'm glad you brought it up. You hear David Bell in the postgame and people online, people everywhere saying, well, when you want your team to play as aggressive as the Reds like to, especially on the base pass, you're going to get burned sometimes. You live with it, you die by it. But what Larkin was pointing out, and he went on a pretty long rant. If you listen to the Reds games or watch them very often, Larkin doesn't say a ton, almost infuriatingly so. The fact that he went on like a solid 2.5-minute rant about this really stuck out to me because, A, exactly what you said. You want Ellie to keep going, but he needs to understand the difference between right and wrong. He needs to be able to point out, hey, I thought that it was further in the gap. The guy had a longer route to it, so I tried to take third. Then they pull up the video, and you can say, okay, this is why that wasn't the case. Let's try to not do that again. Larkin made it sound very, very clearly made it sound like he not only hopes that's what's happening, doesn't believe that it is. Now, we have it on good authority for some people that we've talked to that after spring training, the Cincinnati Reds, I don't know if it's front office or coaching staff, has sort of disallowed Ellie from working defensively with Larkin.
Really?
We know that they weren't thrilled with the way that Votto was kind of giving additional coaching on the side to some of these players. We've heard that from some sources. So if that moment, that little 2.5-minute rant was Larkin coming out with some frustration for this organization's unwillingness to let him influence their superstar of the future, shortstop superstar of the future, it might be the first time I've really agreed with something Larkin said on the broadcast in a long, long time.
Yeah, me too. I got two other points I want to make. And you were talking about all the guys that we've missed. And almost everybody we've missed, I expected to be better, at least as good as they were last year or better, other than Friedel. I think you saw Friedel's career best year he's ever going to have last year. I hope he can be a good player, decent player, but I don't expect it. That's why we all talked about hoping he'd make the All-Star team last year because it'd probably be the only shot he ever has in his career. The other thing I want to talk about, and this is goes back to the aggressiveness again, is the stupid contact play from third base. I'm not saying that there isn't a time for it, but you don't do it every time you got a guy on third base. Other teams realize you're going to do it every time, and they're going to just immediately go to the plate, and your guy's going to be out by a mile. I don't know how many runs we've lost running the contact play from third base this year. It just seems like it's been unsuccessful a lot more times than it's been successful to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with doing the contact play when Ellie De La Cruz is on third because he's going to beat it most of the time because he's a freak of nature. I think that you're right.
Fastest man in the world.
Yeah, fastest man in the world. Doing it every single time is they're going to start calling it out. They just prepare for it the way they do anything else. Last year when the Reds were still on all those bases and they had slowed it down in the second half because when the team knows what you're going to do, it obviously becomes less effective. We could go on for days about this fundamentals issue and whether there's any accountability, it's maddening when you're that bad in one-run games. And granted, it could be just a little regression to the mean because last year they were so good in one-run games. But if this team ends up missing the playoffs by 1, 2, 3 games, and they're currently 3 games out of the wild card, it's pretty easy to find a few games left on the table where they ran themselves out of runs in games that they only lost by 1. So I think that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Joe?
I'm genuinely curious because there has to be some sort of data point somewhere about the contact play and the aggression. Because obviously they're not just like, if this were the best method, you'd figure every team would be doing it that much. But I'm curious, like, what the actual data, what the models, what all that crap says. I mean, you have the chart for run expectancy chart, like, which is kind of the reason why you should never sacrifice bunt at any specific time ever. But it's runner on third with 1 out, a ground ball, to the infield. It probably does make more sense to send it because otherwise you'd have 2 outs and the runner on third anyway. You still need, no guarantee that the runner's going to get in, or a lot less chance for there being 2 outs. But outside of that, I don't know. My other thought about, them telling Larkin not to, they don't want him working with them. I don't know, like the easy answer and the cynical answer, because we are just we're grown to expect the Reds to do dumb stuff, is maybe it's a matter of them hearing too many, like they want to make sure that the players are getting a consistent message from their infield. Because I mean, they have professional infield, instructors. And Barry Larkin was a great defensive shortstop, and he's helped a lot of guys that, along the way with the Reds and other organizations. But maybe he's saying stuff a different way, or saying stuff a way that they just don't want to go. So I'm not immediately going to say, well, they're trying to keep Larkin out of the organization. If they are, that's awesome, because I don't want him to be the next manager. But I don't think that's like, it's not immediately, or it's not, what am I trying to say? Not an absolute that they're trying, that they're not doing things the right way, or they're trying to keep Larkin away. I think there's a good chance that it's just wanting to make sure that it's consistent messaging.
You bring up I'll put my conspiracy theory hat on real quick. There's been rumblings for years that Bob Castellini wants Larkin to be a manager in the future. So maybe it's a David Bell decision not to let Barry have that much influence, because if it works out, he's out, Larkin's in.
I question 2 things about this. One is if they were trying to push Larkin out of the fold, he wouldn't be getting all the opportunities to broadcast and getting to pick his schedule like he gets to do. So, I mean, he's definitely a favor to the organization, because what they've done to Chris Welsh is a crime.
It makes me think it's a coaching staff decision, not a front office.
Yeah, it could be. My question about the Reds infield instructors: how many Gold Gloves have those guys won?
But not everyone. I mean, let me answer this. I'm wearing a Ted Williams jersey, probably the greatest hitter of all time. He was a terrible manager because not everyone can do things the way that these guys can. The reason these guys were great, like those who can do, those who can't teach.
You know what? So I've heard that same story about Ted Williams being a bad manager. The only thing I have to reference, though, is Ball 4, and they talk about what a great manager he was in Washington.
But
even if he wasn't a great manager, doesn't mean he's not going to give incredible hitting advice.
Right. Well, but I mean, again,
the thing Joey Votto kept in his locker his entire career.
Yeah, but a lot, like you hear a lot of people that they're just not able to break down processes as well.
I understand what you're saying. There's a old story about Yogi Berra when he was a hitting instructor somewhere, and he was trying to tell somebody what to do, and he goes, "Oh, just watch me," and he climbed in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Barry Larkin should be out there as the full-time
me either.
defensive coach and Ellie's personal coach on the side, but to not allow your players access to Hall of Famers is pretty frustrating to me. But
if it's true, we don't know for a fact that that's true,
or the context.
We don't know for a fact, but I've got some pretty decent intel on that I'm can't share my sources, because obviously I have to have an air of mystery about me. Keep the people wanting more.
Or wanting anything.
All right. Or want something. Please, just anybody.
Your wife
a couple times a month. All right, so we just wrapped up the All-Star game. The Reds had two representatives, two incredibly deserving representatives in my mind, the aforementioned Elly De La Cruz and our guy Hunter Green. I expect both of those two will make many, many more All-Star games. Joe, we'll start with you. How'd you feel about our guys and their performances? And I guess less their performances because it doesn't really matter, but more just how it felt to have a couple high-profile Reds in the game.
Well, the nice thing is these are guys that the Reds drafted or developed on their own. It's one thing to have someone who's a rental come in and have a good first half of the season, Brandon Drury or something like that. But it's guys that the Reds have had since Elly was 16 and Hunter was he 17 when he was drafted, I think. And they've brought them along, and these weren't gratuitous. You need an all-star pick. I mean, Elly was second in the NL in shortstops for WAR by Fangraphs, and Hunter Green's been one of the 10 best starting pitchers in all the National League. So they're both deserving. So it's awesome seeing them. And did you see Elly's cleats?
Yeah, the pink Louis Vuitton.
Pink Louis Vuitton Jordan 1s. Like, absolute. Like, that dude is a vibe. He is.
When they introduced him,
faceplate.
The place went nuts. You can tell he has transcended just Cincinnati Reds fanhood, and
absolutely,
he's already a household name. And I think MLB knows it a little bit.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt of the way that they promoted him before in the day or so before the game that he was one of the centerpieces of their PR campaign for the game.
Yeah, I saw that the viewership for the All-Star game was like almost 7% higher than last year. Could it be the Elly effect? Definitely. I also saw that Cincinnati, Ohio came fourth in viewership with an 8.0 rating. So the Cincinnati TVs were tuned to the game. And if that shows you anything, it is simply that this is a baseball town, fellas.
Yeah, I know the Pirates or Pittsburgh was number one at 9.9, but how many of those people clocked out after the first inning when Paul Skeens was taken out of the game?
Well, yeah, and sure, we're all watching for Pittsburgh's All-Star also because Paul Skeens is good for baseball.
I was looking for his girlfriend.
Also understandable.
Livy Dunn is not unattractive.
A lovely young lady.
Yes.
All right, so quick standings update. Our beloved Redlegs, like I said, 3 games under 500 at 47-50. They are 8 games back. Kind of narrowed that gap a little bit from first place Milwaukee. Behind them, Milwaukee, we've got, I scrolled away. The Cardinals, who are inexplicably playing well right now. They are 4 games over 500 at 50-46. We hope that does not continue. Followed by the Pirates at 48-48. And the Reds a game and a half behind those Pirates. The Cubs trailing the Reds by a half game. Most importantly, the Reds are 3 games back from that final wild card spot, which I think it's pretty safe to assume that's the only chance they have of making the postseason. We've been through how we feel about where they stand. Let's talk about where they're going. Bill, do you have any expectations for this trade deadline, which is 12 days away? And on top of that, sort of the rest of the season outlook for the Reds?
Nothing major. They might bring in a reliever. I think more likely they'll trade a Montas or a reliever or something for minor league filler. They aren't going to do anything that's going to really help the major league team. It's just like the offseason. They aren't going to do anything that's going to move the needle. I would be shocked if they did.
If they don't, where do you see this team ending up?
Around 500, which is probably 5 or 6, 7 games less than I thought they'd be when the season started. I thought they'd be in the high 80s for wins.
Was that before or after the losses started mounting up?
But before or after which?
The losses started mounting up.
Oh, it was before. When we talked in the preseason, I thought they'd be close to 90 wins.
Yeah.
They came around 500 last year, and the team seemed like it was better team, even if you count sophomore regression. And Steers playing, coming back has played well. India's playing fantastic baseball. Hunter Green's moved forward. Abbott has been great.
He's been so good.
Ashcraft has probably been the biggest disappointment on the pitching side.
Whoa. Yeah, you're right.
I always am, Nate. You should know that by now.
I will die on Ashcraft Island. It's true, but he needs to figure some stuff out.
You think he's going to the bullpen at this point?
Well, now that they've drafted another, I guess we do need to talk about that a little bit. The Chase Burns, they drafted with the number 2 overall pick. Really shocking most people who are fans of Major League Baseball. I think the consensus was that if Travis Bazzana went first to Cleveland, the Reds were going to take Charlie Condon, who is a just absolute slugger of an outfielder, which is a position of need, but also consensus the number 2 pick in the draft. So the Reds going for a pitcher was a little bit surprising. I think a lot of fans were wish casting their desires more than listening to the Reds. There's some interviews that I saw after the fact where the head of amateur scouting was pretty much just saying, hey, we've told you guys 100 times. I'll tell you again, we value pitchers and middle infielders because those infielders can go anywhere and pitchers are hard to find. So maybe we should have just read the tea leaves when they were clearly laid out in front of us. But yeah, to answer your question, Bill, I think that if he doesn't show something really, really soon, he is a trade candidate, or he can end up in his Emmanuel Class A lights out back of the bullpen role that Joe's always wanted him in.
He's lucky, I think, that the Reds' top pitching prospects have pretty much pitched like flaming hot garbage this year. If Connor Phillips or if Chase Petty had been able to push or anything like that, then he would be in the bullpen right now, probably in Louisville, trying to, figure out, work on actual bullpen regiment. That those guys have all been garbage, and Rhett Lauder has struggled since he's gone up to Double-A. I don't want to say the pressure is off him, but he's given a little bit longer of a rope. Carson Spears is not a long-term guy. The guy's pitched amazing for the fact that nothing was expected of him, but Spears is a bullpen or a 4A pitcher. But I like Ashcraft. I've spoken to him a couple times when I cheated on you and spoke on another show. Incredible guy and hardworking guy and bulldog. But yeah, I mean, this has been the thing since day one. Like, it was whether he's going to have enough stuff to be able to go through the lineup a third time, especially considering he doesn't strike guys out. And everyone hates strikeouts, but that's a huge, huge sign of success or failure is strikeout rate in this day and age. And even for the fact that he throws mid to upper 90s on 3 different pitches, he can't strike anybody out, or doesn't. I don't know if it's a matter of he's not trying to put guys away and trying to pitch to contact, but he just doesn't. So
yeah, his issue, and I'm not going to act like I'm a pitching coach here, that third time through the lineup thing is very, very real. Every opposing hitter becomes Barry Bonds the third time they face Graham Ashcraft in a game. He doesn't have a breaking pitch that moves in a different direction from his primary pitches. So every pitcher knows if they can just keep their bat on a similar plane, then they just have to get the timing down, and they can make contact. So it's tough for Graham. I hope he figures it out. Certainly rooting for him in a big way. And I don't know. We'll see. Shout out to Chase Burns, though. The guy he was the top pitching prospect in the draft. He's getting a lot of hate online, like I said, because Reds fans thought they were going to take that outfielder. We're not going to hate on him here. He's a Red now, so we wish him all the success in the world. But I hope that they can find some positional depth and make a move for that legitimate outfielder that they so badly, badly need.
Have you seen video of his slider, of Chase Burns' slider?
I have not. I've seen the clips that were posted on Twitter.
It is absolute filth. I mean, he touches. I mean, he's been clocked, I think, up to 102. His slider is major league ready in terms of command, movement, everything. I mean, he's going to be a fast mover. I mean, I can see he and Lauder both being in the rotation by second half of next year at some point.
The big concerns with Chase Burns seem to be he's a max effort pitcher, which has often led to Tommy John surgeries. And his fastball, while touching 102, I think in college, opposing hitters had a 1. OPS against his
it's a matter of figuring out where to they have the pitching lab there at Wake Forest, but it's a matter of also learning where to spot it. Like, yeah, you can shape it and be able to spin it and have, movement and everything like that. But if you're not spotting it, if you're not, putting it where it needs to go, yeah, they're gonna hit the crap out of it. They can catch up to 105 miles an hour. They can hit 100, 102.
Right. All right, guys. So before we get into our draft, I wanted to go ahead and do some viewer mail questions first because they were a little bit more topical instead of burying those at the end. As always, these come from our beloved friends and family over at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where we'd love for you, dear listener, to join in on the hijinks. We're having a good time over there talking about all the things you can imagine. Reds baseball, Bengals football, a little bit of FC Cincinnati here and there. Shout out to Mo Egger for pulling the sword out in the game yesterday, crushing that. We're talking about movies and TV, food, even though your all's food takes are terrible. You just love Skyline Chili way too much, even though Joel's a Gold Star guy. All right. So first question comes from Jeff Eucler. Jeff says, there were no Cardinal players at the All-Star game. Does that make it the greatest All-Star game of all time? And I think that might be a hard yes. I'll tell you what, though, if they were, we all agree, right, that they should wear their own jerseys?
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be even sweeter if they go back to that and then there were still no Cardinals. When I was given an opportunity
so much more,
where in theory I would have had to see a Cardinals jersey, but I didn't. That's the only thing that can make it sweeter.
Manfred's getting hate, but he actually did say that they're going to have a conversation about players wearing their actual jerseys going forward. Because, yeah, those jerseys,
they were garbage.
I saw them, I saw them released and everything on social media. I'm like, nothing is ever as terrible as they look, except that those were worse. I don't even understand what kind of color. It was like a pinkish, reddish. I don't.
Somebody will buy them.
Somebody will buy them.
I guess they're red.
But you can make them wear like a jersey that is incredibly similar to their own team's jersey with a little bit of all-star flair. And the same people that are going to buy that garbage are going to buy that too.
Yeah.
But as Bill pointed out earlier, Manfred hates baseball. All right, next question comes from Hooper Powell. Bill, you already answered this one, but what are your predictions for Reds win total by the end of game 162? Hooper is assuming that there will not be a one-game playoff. And that will only be 162 games. Joe, what's the Reds' record?
I'm going to say 79-83. Again, you look at their Pythagorean record right now, and they should be 55, and I lost what they were supposed to be because they're 53-44 right now. They're the exact inverse of the Cards. The Cards have a negative 38 run differential. So the Cards are getting all the one-run luck. Screw the Cards. But so the Reds are ostensibly better than what they played. I have faith in the teams above them and the teams that they're going to be playing down the stretch, making more meaningful moves. And you're going to be not only those teams going to be, getting better, but I think you're going to be getting worse at some point. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's not an unreasonable take. I'm going to go a little bit more glass half full just because there's still time in the season, and I like to live my life that way. I think they're going to finish 3 games over 500, which is the exactly how far over 500 the last wild card team is right now. So my rosy red colored glasses are that the Reds will finish 3 games over 500 and make the playoffs.
I don't think you can finish 3 games over 500. You got to finish
4 games over 500.
Yeah.
4 games over 500. Listen, I'm podcasting here. Math is obviously not my strong suit, especially while drinking the Happy Dad Texas Hard Seltzer.
What flavor?
Shout out to Happy Dad. This one's lime. I finished a watermelon earlier. Shout out to Happy Dad. If they want to sponsor this podcast, holler at your boy, team@riverfrontcincy.com. All right, next question from Joey Gaditza. Our guy Joey says, the Reds drafted a surplus of pitchers. Surely they can spare a couple pitching prospects to go get, say, a Brent Rooker. And why wait till the deadline? Make a move now. To that I will say, if they are coming out loud and proud and saying how much they value starting pitchers and middle infielders, doesn't fill me with a ton of hope. that they will use that capital to go out and get somebody. They didn't do it last year when they were literally in first place. They should go get a guy like Luis Robert Jr. Go get a guy like Randy Arozarena, who the Rays said today is available. Get guys that do have team control. So these aren't rentals. You're not mortgaging the future. They absolutely should. Do I think they will? No. Bill?
We got all these guys coming back from injury. We'll be fine.
You may have heard. You may have heard that it is as good as a trade.
Brad Meter says that, TJ Friedl coming back is their trading deadline pickup. Absolutely they should. The part of the problem is, Joey said spare some pitching prospects. Like I said earlier, the Reds pitching prospects, the top ones, at least the ones that are high value, have all been pretty bad. So their value is depressed, and the Reds do not ever want to lose, or the Reds want to win every single trade. Like they don't want to give up any value for anything unless they absolutely have to. So,
that's something that who was it? I think it was Danny Ainge or maybe somebody in the NBA came out a couple of days ago and just talked about how difficult it is to make trades right now because every GM is so afraid of losing the trade that they won't even engage in talks unless it's heavily lopsided in their favor.
Yeah.
It seems to me like the Reds front office has pretty incredible job security the way they're a bunch of yes men. So I would hope that isn't the case with them. And maybe they have a plan and maybe they're sticking to it. I don't know. I just, I really, really hope that my lack of enthusiasm over something meaningful happening is proved wrong. I hope they do something. I hope they do something that helps them this year and later. All right. Last question comes from Gary Hilliard. Gary says, I can't believe it took us this long to mention this guy. But Rhys Hines has put himself in a position to do the unthinkable. Have a better start to his MLB career than Aristides Aquino. Through his first 16 games in 2019, Aquino had 11 home runs, 22 RBIs, and a 345, 390, 964 slash line. Will Rhys Hines have a better – no, sorry. Rhys Hines in his first 7 games has 5 home runs, 11 RBIs, and a 423, 464, 1.192 slash line. Will Rhys have a better first 16 games than Aquino? Also, when looking at Rhys Hines' performance in the minor leagues, do you expect him to have a productive MLB career? Bill, what are your thoughts on the Rhys Hines experience so far?
Fun to watch. Will he be better? Will his first 16 games be better than Aquino's? No. I hope they are, but I'd be shocked. All I know about this kid is what I see on Baseball Reference and the little bit I've heard that he's a slow starter. If he's a slow starter, he's going to be a hell of a major league player. He was not playing real well at Louisville when he came up. He finished pretty strong at Chattanooga last year. I don't know how he's going to be. I hope he becomes a good player. I hope he can, I hope he can be the right fielder that we need. We don't have to platoon and he can play every day. Only time will tell.
Yeah. I agree completely. I don't think it actually blew my mind to go back and look at the Punisher's stats from that run. I was able to go to the game. They played the Nationals, and I was living in Charlottesville, Virginia at the time, and drove up. I got to see one of those bombs, and it was even there. They were showing their appreciation. But as incredible as Rhys Hines has been, and shout out to him for winning NL Player of the Week in his first week in the majors, which is just an incredible story and something we're all always going to remember. He's an interesting case because he does have the pedigree. He was a second-round draft pick. He was an elite amateur. The tools are all there. They've always been there. But the numbers have never been there. He's had extremely hot months. He had a couple months at the end of last season that were pretty terrific. And he has said that he figured something out a couple weeks before his call-up. And don't forget that his call-up was due to injuries. It was out of necessity, not out of want. So He had been hitting well for a week or so. And if he did find something, then maybe, because we all see it. The defense has been great. The offense has been otherworldly. If he is that guy, then it solves the biggest problem that I think we have with this roster. Do I expect it? Not necessarily. No, I don't expect it at all. But, and I recommend this to everyone that's listening, enjoy the ride, baby, because it has been fun. All right, guys. Y'all ready to draft?
Sure.
Let's draft.
Awesome. As always, this draft is brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. If you don't know what SeatGeek is, Google it because I've talked too much already. But if you use the code word Riverfront, one word, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. And that's free money, baby. Take it. All right, so what we are going to do, we are going to draft a player, a Reds player that made the All-Star game. We're going to make a lineup. And we are going to draft a player and that season. So it's not just what they did up until the All-Star break, it's what they did throughout the entire year. There are 10 rounds, so all of the hitting positions plus starting pitcher and reliever. And the big kicker here that brings in some strategy is that you can only draft a player once. So there are some players, namely members of the Big Red Machine, that are very well represented in many, many years, but you can't use them twice. All right. You have to try to use the player at the primary position. There, if it gets a little crazy, then we can make some rulings if we get a majority agreement. But you have to at least try, and then the goal here is to build the best team you can, and we'll let our beloved audience. I've used the word beloved like 30 times today. I need to get a thesaurus. We'll let people vote. We'll let the internet folks vote and see who won this thing. All right, I have the random list organizer up, and I'm going to type in our names, Nate, Joe, and Bill, to figure out the draft order. Let's go. But the first pick in your 2024 Reds All-Stars draft is Joe Farfsing. Second pick, Mr. Bill Lack. And I am third. So whenever I do this, I have almost always been first, but I never let myself be first. I always change it because I feel like people are going to accuse me of cheating. This was the one time where had I gotten first, I was going to leave it. Because the first pick is pretty valuable in this draft. So, Joe, start us off. Make your draft pick. Let us know what that player's seasons look like in the year that you drafted him. I'm going to keep track of the teams.
All right. Obvious one would be Johnny Bench at catcher, right? 1972 is his highest OPS plus year at 166. 40 home runs, 125 RBIs, 920 OPS. Obviously, Gold Glove defense. So I'm going to go with get the catcher out of the way because that goes away fast after like two guys. 1972, John Lee Bench.
72 Bench. Very good choice. I'm not going to necessarily say that's where I thought you were going to go. I might have gone a different direction. You can't be upset about that pick, though. Bill, let's see if you go where I would.
I'm going the best player that I've ever seen play.
I knew it. I knew more than anything I needed to be above Bill in this stinking draft.
I'm going to take Joe Morgan's 1976 season.
That was the debate. What was Joe Morgan or
a 187 OPS, a 9.6 WAR, hit 320, hit 27 home runs, drove in 111, scored 113, on base percentage 444, slugging 576, stole 60 bases, got caught 9 times, won a Gold Glove. Pretty fair country player.
Yeah, had a 187 OPS plus that season. He was 87% better than league average. He was almost as good as 2 players in one. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't put a strategy in place for if I had the third pick, but here we go. Man, it gets tough at second base, boys. So because catcher gets kind of gross, I think I'm going to stick here. And I'm going to go with Ernie Lombardi's 1938 season. He had a 915 OPS that year, 152 OPS plus. Only 19 bombs, but he had 40 walks to 14 strikeouts, which is a pretty crazy number. And, Hall of Famer Ernie Lombardi, so I'm not going to get mad about that.
38 season, is that what you said?
I believe so. Let me pull it back up real quick. Yes, 38.
He also won the MVP that year.
And won the MVP. So I actually got an MVP. Hold on a second.
Everybody's got an MVP at this point.
Well, thanks to having such a historic franchise, we've got some of those. Up next, I am going to go, because I have the wraparound pick here, with, pull it up. It's got to be a shortstop for me. And I'm going to go with the gentleman we've spoken at length about so far, our guy, Barry Larkin. I'm going to go with his 1996 season. That season, he had a 977 OPS, 33 home runs, 36 stolen bases. Well, 30-30 Barry, 302 batting average back when batting average was a thing. Probably, I was 11 years old then, so one of like the formative Barry seasons for me. All right, back to you, Bill.
Okay, I'm going to do a little strategizing here, and I'm going to stay at shortstop. And I'm going to take the 2017 season of Zach Cozart.
Mm-hmm.
OPS of 933, OPS plus of 140. Hit 24 home runs. Hit 297 with a 385 on base percentage, 548, 933 slash. By far his best career season.
Oh, by far and away.
And
it's crazy how good he was that year.
Yeah.
And it kind of empties the sorry, Joe, it kind of empties the shortstop bucket there.
I'll be okay.
Also, he got a donkey out of it.
Right. And he got a donkey out of that season. That's right.
I love it. All right, Joe, you got two in a row.
All right. Let me update my my query here.
Whoa.
What?
Can't say that in 2024.
I said query, Query. Shut your face. I am going to go with Frank Robinson, 1962, OPS plus of a mere 173. Led the league in on base percentage at 421 and slugging at 624. OPS over 1,000, 342 batting average. He had to be right on the edge of the Triple Crown that year. 39 home runs, 136 ribeyes, 76 walks to 62 strikeouts. So,
what position are you taking, Mr. Robinson?
Left or right field. Sorry.
All right, I should have clarified this. We were just doing 3 outfield spots. It doesn't have to be a center fielder.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think that would affect your pick very much.
No. And then backing it up with, we're going to go George Foster, 1977. That's the 52 home runs, nice. 149 RBIs, 631 slugging percentage, led the league in total bases. Also had the most badass lamb chops to grace this fair planet of ours.
I mean, that might be a literal fact.
Yeah.
He had some chops.
Those were gorgeous. I'm envious of that facial hair.
I like those picks, Joe. I'm not going to lie. Going back-to-back outfield narrowed that pool quite a bit. Though there's still some guys.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, you're up.
I am going to go. I'm going to stay in the outfield also. I'm going to take the 1969 season of Peter Edward Rose.
Ooh, you dirty dog.
158 OPS plus, Led the league in hitting at 348, 428 on base percentage. Hit 16 home runs at Crosley Field.
Yeah,
and I took Peter Edward out of the pool.
You took him out of the pool. That is some evil strategy.
Always smart to take a Peter out of the pool. It's crazy that someone who was not a power hitter, I mean, he was a doubles hitter, hit a ton of doubles, but had an OPS plus of 158. I mean, he was just the definition of professional hitter. I mean, a lot can be said about his activities off the field and in the manager's office, but dude could just flat out hit.
Yeah, he could. That's a good pick, Bill. I didn't like it, but it's a good pick. All right, so I am going to tug on my own personal heartstrings, as I am wont to do. And I'm going to head on over to first base, where I take the 2012 season of Joseph Daniel Votto.
Really?
I'm going to do it. Oh, just put that under Bill's name. Sorry. So Votto that season, let me yank it back up real quick. 177 OPS plus. He dotted 1.041 OPS. The top 3 first base seasons by Reds All-Stars all belong to Joey Votto. Gosh, I missed that guy. 337.
My problem with that is he only played 111 games that year.
You know what? That's a fair point. I can't go back now. I could take his next best season, which had a higher OPS and only a 6 points less OPS plus. I could do that.
He was in the All-Star game, so that's that's all that matters. He could have played 10 games and been in the All-Star game. That's
That's true, Bill. You do make up a good point, but I've already said it out loud. So I should have picked 2010, but I didn't, and the people will remember me for my faults. It's crazy how good he was, man. 337, 474, 567. The 2010 year Bill's talking about. 324 batting average, 424 on base, 600 slugging. I mean, he was so good, guys.
And that wasn't even his season with the highest OPS. His highest OPS was 2017 with 1,032.
Yep. All right, so I think I need to go down to third base. And I'm going to need a Bill ruling on this. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I've got this right. Okay, yeah, I'm going to need a Bill ruling on this. Bill, in 1970, did Tony Perez play enough third base for this to count? Off the top of my head, after a couple adult beverages, I don't remember what year Pete made the switch.
In 70?
75 is when he made the switch. That was
Perez moved from third to first when
Dan Dreesen? No, Dan Dreesen played first.
No, it was after that. It was before that. I've got him at first base in 1970.
Yeah, he played over 50% of his games there. I've set it at 50% at that position, so he's there. You're good.
So I can take him at third?
Go for it.
All right, we're good. And I'm taking Tony Perez, and I am taking his 1970 season, which he had a 990 OPS, 40 home runs, 129 RBIs. The guy was just a stud. He was clutch. He was handsome. We love Tony Perez.
Big doggy.
All right, so that finishes me off. Back to Bill.
But you did not want to be in first. When he was playing third base, you did not want to be behind first base. Well, and talking about that 70 season, though, real quick, but at the All-Star break, he had better numbers than Bench did. So
I would have, man.
I am going. Oh, you took.
We lose our mind over Ellie De La Cruz being pretty good so far, and Bill was watching live and in person. Johnny Bench and Tony Perez and George Foster and Pete Rose and Joe Stinkin' Morgan all at the exact same time. That's nuts.
I'm going to go third base, 91 season, Chris Sabo.
Love it.
Stole it from me.
OPS plus of 136 and a wins above replacement of 5.1. Had a great nickname. It was a real spot. Hit two big home runs in the World Series in the same game.
My first favorite player. Sabo was my first.
136. Let's see. He had 26 home runs that year in 91. Had 19 stolen bases. Hit 301. Came in 20th in the MVP voting. Mr. Sabo.
I love it. Made rec specs cool, which is probably his most impressive feat.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't cool for everybody. My older brother, had a pair, and he looked like an absolute goober. So, all right, I am going with Big Clue for first base. 1954, 49 home runs, 141 RBI, 35 strikeouts. So 14 more home runs than strikeouts on the year, which is, again, it's hard to fathom. Like modern era. I mean, obviously, like I don't like strikeouts, but I understand why that they're so much higher than, now than ever. Like, whatever, it is what it is. But when someone has 14 more home runs than strikeouts on the season, that is ridiculous. 642 slugging. What's that?
And also, most importantly,
gigantic pipes.
Kind of rocking the no sleeves look, which we should bring back.
I've got a Ted Kluszewski picture here on my wall. It was my dad's favorite player growing up. My dad was born in 49, so he was, 4 or 5 years old during the season. And that was, Clue was the man. So
cool.
I am going to back that up with get a second baseman here, and I haven't decided who. Actually, I mean, yeah, we're gonna go with Scooter.
I hear like a Law and Order.
I know, Bills. Is that your? Do you have the Law and Order ding as your?
Yeah, it's my text. I'm sorry, it's my wife texting me from downstairs.
Let it ride. It's awesome. All right, Joe, you got.
Second baseman, 2018, Scooter.
Ooh,
that's the crazy year when that literally came out of nowhere. And what do you have? 23 home runs, 92 RBIs, 847 OPS. Not great numbers, but when you take Joe Morgan and Pete Rose out of the mix, you're kind of slim pickings. But I'll take a 125 OPS plus. Like that's a solid season. So
we'll take Scooter. It gets tough at second base. Shout out to Scooter for having a name that would have worked in 1908 just as well as it did that year.
Absolutely.
So I like that for Scooter. All right, so we are back to Bill. Bill, you still have starting pitcher, catcher, first base, outfield, and relief pitcher, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm going outfield. I'm taking the 1987 season of a 25-year-old Eric Davis.
Oh, it's a great choice.
That guy was good.
155 OPS, hit 37 home runs, stole 50 bases, hit 293, on-base percentage of 399, won a Golden Glove, won a Silver Slugger, came in 9th in the MVP voting. That'll do.
Yeah, that'll do.
His numbers at the All-Star break were insane.
All right, looking at my roster here, I haven't drafted an outfielder yet, so I need to hop into that game. I'm going to go with the 1995 season of Riverfront fan favorite, Riverfront host favorite, and should be, and it's a crime that he's not, Cincinnati Reds Hall of Famer, Reggie Sanders. This season specifically is why he is so polarizing, because he was bad in the playoffs, sure. But before he was bad in the playoffs, this guy had a 306 batting average, a 397 on base, 579 slug, 155 OPS plus, go along with 28 bombs, 99 RBIs. He was electric. He was so good. And we said it once, we'll say it 1,000 more times. Put Reggie Sanders in the Reds Hall of Fame. What are we doing? Guys, I'm a little surprised. It gets kind of gross in the outfield.
There's still a couple names out there.
There's still some dudes, but without the name recognition that we so love. So I'm going to go another outfielder. And I'm going to go with my birth year, 1985, Dave Parker.
Good pick.
Yeah, just a fantastic season from Dave Parker. Where was he? Sorry, I lost 34 bombs, 125 RBIs, led the league in singles with 42, led the league in total bases, also led the league in ground into double plays, which looking at this number of 26, that's crazy. The next highest just on what my screen shows is 18. So my guy was grounding into some double plays. 24 intentional walks that season also led the league. So shouts to Dave Parker. When was the T-shirt? The boys are bopping.
Yeah.
All right, 85 Dave Parker. All right, Bill, back to you.
I'm going to stay in the outfield also. And I'm going to take the 1976 season of Ken Griffey Sr. OPS plus of 140. Wins above replacement of 4.6. Hit 336, 401 on base percentage. Stole 34 bases. Helped set the table for the Big Red Machine. So my outfield is now complete.
I like it. That's a good pick. Bill, you got a nice squad.
Thank you.
It's a good thing about drafting all-stars. Everybody has a good team. This is the participation trophy of drafts. All right, 2 for Brother Joe.
I'm going to go with starting pitcher, 1977, Tom Seaver. 168 ERA plus, whip of under 1.956, FIP at 2.87.
That's such a nasty stat.
If you can allow fewer than one batter, or one base runner per inning, you are doing it. Over 3-1 strikeout to walk ratio. I wish the guy could have been able to pitch on a World Series team for the Reds. Came the year after, and left when they got there, and then got screwed in '81. So we'll go Tom Terrific for the starting pitcher.
Yeah, good pick. You're tugging at my heartstrings by he is 7th on the list in ERA plus, but 1st in WHIP.
Yeah,
amongst those guys, there's somebody down here a little bit lower.
We're going for offense over defense, so I want a guy who gets fewer base runners on the allowing fewer base runners, so I don't have to worry about turning double plays and stuff like that.
He led the league in shutouts, led the league in WHIP, led the league in home runs per 9. Good pick, Joe. Love it.
A lot of a lot of bold print on that year. So doubling up, I am going relief pitcher 2012 Aroldis Chapman. 270.
Are you leaving him on the board?
What's that?
When you started with 19, I'm like, is somebody taking a reliever that isn't Chapman first? Let's go.
I was looking at Dibble's numbers when I was saying Chapman. 274 ERA plus, absolutely ridiculous. FIP of 1.55, 0.809 walks, hits, inning pitched, 5.3 strikeouts per walk, 122 strikeouts in 71 inning pitch. He was absolutely sick, stupid, ugly, dominant for the team that could have made it to the damn World Series and won the World Series that year.
That was the team that changed my sports fandom. I reacted so poorly to that playoff exit that I had to have a long talk with myself the next day.
That's the way I was after the 72 World Series.
Yeah. All right. Bill, who you got?
I'm going back to the 1939 National League champion Cincinnati Reds. I'm going to take Mr. Bucky Walters. Led the league in wins with 27, ERA 2.29, games started with 36, innings pitched with 319, batters faced with 1283, ERA plus of 170, and won the MVP.
Yeah, there's
he was pretty good.
He and Paul Derringer were dynamite those for those 2 years in 39 and 40.
Yep. He and Derringer.
Yep.
No arguing that. All right, I got 2 in a row, so I am going to go with my reliever first. I'm going to go with the 1967's Ted Abernathy.
Good call.
My guy pitched in 70 games to a 1.27 ERA, led the league with 28 saves, threw 106.1 innings, which is a pretty wild number. 88 strikeouts, which doesn't quite get to the lofty levels of some of these guys, but still quite a few. He had a .978 whip and a 2.99 ERA plus. 2.99. So shout out to Ted Abernathy. I apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game.
He threw submarine. He liked to Colby.
And I got a submariner, so that's rad too.
That gives you the W right there.
There you go.
All right, so I'm going to go against my own strategy, and instead of just picking the guy that I think is necessarily the best, I want a guy that I love. So I'm going to draft a starting pitcher. I'm going to go with the 2014 vintage of Johnny Cueto. My guy led the league in strikeouts. He led the league in games started. He led the league in innings pitched. He led the league in batters faced at a 1.63 ERA plus, 2.25 ERA on the season. We don't care about wins and losses, but he had 20 of those wins. 2014 Johnny Cueto. We loved you. We still love you. Welcome to my team. All right, back to Bill.
Well, we're getting easier now because I can pick whoever I want because I don't have to.
I know. That's what I have to pick second base.
I'm going to go first base. I'm going to go to the 1971 Lee May.
Ooh, I like it.
The big slam from Birmingham.
What a great nickname.
And his name was May, and his number was 23, and my wife's birthday is May 23rd.
Love it.
Boom.
So he had a 147 OPS plus, hit 278, hit 39 home runs in Riverfront, not Crosley Field. 278, 332, 532 slash with 864 OPS. Came in 12th in the MVP voting. Good. His best season of his career.
That's one thing I didn't do was pull up a list where I could see where everybody finished in MVP and Gold Glove and Silver Slugger voting and stuff.
It's on the MVP is on the end of Baseball Reference. It's on the far right of their stat line for the year.
I'm over here using StatHead like a goober. All right. So, Joe, 2 in a row. We are getting close to the end. You still have third base, shortstop, and outfield.
Can I pick a current all-star player for the Reds for my shortstop? Because it gets really slim at shortstop after that. I'm taking this year's Ellie De La Cruz, 128 OPS plus. Obviously leading the league in triples, leading the league in stolen bases, leading the team in home runs. The fact that his walk rate has gotten so much better, it's up over 10%. He's going to strike out a ton, and it's going to get better the more he gets comfortable with the strike zone. And next year when they bring in the challenge system, when he'll quit getting called by those bullcrap calls under his knees.
I think I saw a stat that he has been rung up on like balls below the knees, like second most in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be him, O'Neal Cruz, and Aaron Judge because they're so tall. Their knees
Judge
are just
was one.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Also, shout out because I'm keeping track of all these picks on the notes doc, and he is the only person who I put their first name, and not their last name.
It's a lot easier and a lot less spaces. So
it also just tells you he transcends the game.
He's like Madonna or Prince. He just needs the one name, Ellie. Although that is my daughter's name, so there's a little confusion when I'm talking ball with Cam in front of the in front of her. She's like, "What? What did I do?" I'm like, no, not you, kiddo.
That household has heard the words "damn it, Ellie" so many times.
A lot for a lot of different reasons.
All right, your next last pick, Joe. You got strategically. I'm not gonna.
It doesn't matter because I have the last. I mean, I guess. Let me check something out here.
You have two.
You and I both have an outfielder, so I'm gonna pick an outfielder before you can.
That's the move.
I'm gonna go with 1995 Ron Gant.
Nice.
Just a personal favorite. I mean, there was actually I think there's only one higher with the OPS plus than him on it. So that team was so fun that they could just hit the crap out of the ball. His arms were about the size of my head. I can't believe that guy used to play second base. Just hit the crap out of him. 29 home runs, 88 RBIs, and only 119 games. 940 OPS, 146 OPS plus, and 74 walks to 108 strikeouts. So walked a good deal of the time too. Had a good walk rate. So we're going Ron Gant.
Love it. Love Ron Gant. All right, Bill. You have.
I need a ruling.
All right.
I need a ruling. What about if a guy got traded in the middle of the season away from the Reds?
Was he a Cincinnati Red All-Star?
He was traded at the All-Star break, so I don't know how it.
What jersey did he wear?
What jersey did he
I don't remember. I think he wore the other teams.
Who is it?
Shaw.
Jeff Shaw? What year was that?
You know what? If you want to draft Jeff Shaw, I'll allow it.
He had a 2.40 ERA plus when he was traded. He had a 2.4 WAR when he was traded. If I don't take him, I'll take Dibble. I'll take either one. You can't lose with either one.
All right. In this case, I'm going to overrule it. Make you pick Dibble because he needs to be represented in this draft.
Right,
and he might fight us if we don't draft him.
I'll take the 1990 Rob Dibble with his 2.29 ERA plus, his 4 WAR, and throwing the ball into the outfield and wanting to fight everybody and
made relievers cool.
Yeah,
he was a nasty boy.
Did he hit a pregnant lady in the stands with the ball?
I thought it was a teacher.
I knew it was a school teacher. Maybe I'm just adding pregnant because it makes it sound more.
I've got a Rob Dibble story, but I'll save it for another time.
The question is why couldn't she catch? She should have called.
It's going 300 some odd feet. You got plenty of time to see it.
That's a souvenir. Short hop and go. All right, so it's up to me. I have second base and outfield to go. It doesn't matter in which order I pick them. So I'm going to go down to second base. I am going to go. Yikes. I'm going to go with the 1992 Bip Roberts.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Not where I thought you would go.
I almost want to change it, but I got to give Bip some love. He had a 131 OPS plus that year. What a slash line. 323, 393, 432 slugging. So he wasn't hitting the bombs. He only had 4 that season. But, he's got an awesome name. Bip.
He does.
When's the last time the Reds had a good guy named Bip? That season.
That was him.
All right, so I need an outfielder.
Pickings are pretty slim.
Pickings are pretty slim. I've got a guy from a year that I don't care about. I can't in good faith pick because I literally hadn't heard of him until today. But shout out to Ival Goodman.
Ival.
Who? Ival. Made a couple of all-star teams. I'm going to go 2021's Jesse Winker. This is the reason we were so mad when the Reds burned it down after finishing 7 games out of a playoff spot. Because Winker was really, really, really good that year. 949 OPS, 305, 394, 556 slash line, and one of the longest necks in Reds history. So give me 2001 Winker. That rounds up my team.
And for my last pick, I'm I'm going catcher. I'm picking friend of the podcast. 2014, Devin Mesoraco.
Yeah.
147 OPS plus, 893 OPS. Hit 25 bombs. 26 years old, hit 273. Had a 4.9 wins above replacement.
Gosh, we thought he was going to be here a long, long time after that season.
Stupid injuries.
Another one of those if he could only stayed healthy. And a wonderful guy. And just a wonderful guy.
And got us the number 2 draft pick this season. So shouts to Devin.
When Chase Burns becomes next year's Paul Skeens, we can thank him.
All right, Joe, close it out, baby.
To finish things up, talking about good vibes only, Eugenio Suarez 2018. 136 OPS plus, 34 bombs, 104 ribeyes. Struck out a ton because that's who he is, but 283, 366, 536. Guy played damn near every game when he was in the Reds uniform. Mm-hmm. I know he's kind of become I'm saying afterthought, but just another dude. But he was such a fun guy while he was here. Just always had a smile on his face, and you need those guys. I think that's part of the reason why Ellie's so loved, because he's got a smile on his face. It's not like he's guys enjoying the game of baseball. You don't see or hear guys that enjoy the game of baseball.
That's funny. The 2 players now that I wrote down their first name, or Gino as the case may be, instead of their last name, are also 2 of the happiest players, the most joyful players that I've ever watched in a Reds uniform.
Guys, I've got to go.
That's it. Bill, get down there. Apologize to Linda for us.
I will.
We appreciate it.
When the knots go down on my head,
We'll let you know what the people say about your team. Thank you so much, Bill.
Enjoyed it.
All right, Joe, run through your roster real quick.
All right, we'll go starting pitcher, 1977, Tom Seaver. Catcher, 1972, Johnny Lee Bench. First base, Ted Kluszewski, 1954. Second base, Scooter, 2018. Third base, 2018, Eugenio Suarez. Shortstop this year's Ellie. Outfield is 1962, Frank Robinson. 77, George Foster. 1995, Ron Gant. And the Cuban Missile, 2012 edition, Aroldis Chapman.
Is that the greatest nickname of all time, or just top 10?
It's short list, absolute short list. Ellie still needs a good nickname. I mean, Electricidad is a fun, but that's not really his nickname. That's just kind of his catchphrase.
I was going to say before Bill got off that we should do an entire episode where we just hash out nicknames for some of the guys we expect to be here a long time.
Create nicknames. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, it's going to be some adult beverages.
Oh,
all right, I'll read off Bill's. Bill had. I'll leave out the years because people can go look this up. We'll publish the graphic later. As a starter, he had Bucky Walters, catcher Devin Mesoraco, first base Lee May, second base Joe Morgan. Probably arguably the single best season on this entire draft board.
Oh, absolutely.
Third base Sabo, shortstop Zach Cozart, in the outfield he had Pete Rose, Eric Davis, and Ken Griffey Sr. As a reliever, he had Rob Dibble. As my pitchers, I had Johnny Cueto and Ted Abernathy. Catchers, Ernie Lombardi, Joey Votto, Bip Roberts at second base, Tony Perez at third, Barry Larkin, and then the outfield, Reggie Sanders, Dave Parker, and Jesse Winker. Just from looking at it, I think Bill's got a pretty dope team.
I don't know.
I might have finished third. But we'll let you all decide. All right, Joe, any parting thoughts before we get out of here? You want to tell people where to find you and what you're doing around the riverfront?
We are Wednesday evening, so we are 3 days before Bengals rookies report on Saturday, veterans report on the 23rd. So it is time for NFL preseason to start getting going. We are going to be talking about off-season storylines here. In about an hour and a half, about an hour, we'll be talking with my boy Parker here. So,
love it.
Again, find us at Welcome to the Jungle at W2TJ Show if you are on Twitter, X, whatever the heck you want to call it, and come give me crap. I will give it right back.
Do come give him crap. We always support that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and hanging out with us today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know what you think about the draft. If you have any ideas for future drafts or anything you just want to talk about, nicknames, you can always email us at team@riverfrontcincy.com. We'll be happy to answer some of those live during the recording. If you're looking for more Cincinnati content, you got to check out our boys Tim and Ben over at Late Night Reds on Sundays. Spoiler alert, a couple weeks from now, Tim goes out of town and his doppelganger, Jeff Carr, coming on to help out. Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds. Seth Shaner has a new episode of Red Lake Roundtable that just came out where he interviewed Drew Stubbs. Pretty fantastic interview there. Second time Stubbs has made an appearance on this network, so shouts to him. And then always the Welcome to the Jungle guys, and then the NBA Happy Hour with Tim and Parker and Sean Mackey. It's a darn good time. So we got a lot going on. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Joe, thank you for coming on. Appreciate Bill as well. We'll do this again soon. We'll have some more actual 2024 Reds content to discuss in the days ahead. And we'll have anything big happens around the trade deadline, we'll be here. So shouts to Adam Dunn. Shout out to Lisa Alberto, to Wayne Krenchicki and Eli Cash, and shout out to my guy Scooter Gannett. For Bill Lack, Joe Farsi, this is Nate Dawson saying so long, Cincinnati.